Happy Thursday and welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next couple hours, we have got a ton to get you caught up on. And we start, Caroline, with the NBA, where last night we got an epic matchup between the Lakers and the Spurs that went all the way down to the wire. And I'm here to tell you, my friend, we saw the MVP last night. We saw the MVP for the NBA this year on the court. It was not Victor Wembanyama. It was that man. Luka Doncic, 35 points, 13 assists, 9 boards, 5 steals. Absolutely epic numbers, epic night. Luka was dominant without any help on the court that we're used to seeing. It was an elite performance by, I think, what we're going to find out ends up being the MVP of the NBA.
That's what it felt like last night. A performance that had me checking Luka Doncic's MVP odds after watching that game. Because I thought if he's not the MVP favorite right now, he is going to be the MVP favorite in due time. Right now, it's still Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's fair. SGA deserves that. But Luka Doncic is just a narrow second. I mean, even on a night where Luka only shot 33% from the field, 9 for 27 from the field, he still found a way to make his impact felt and his presence heard. I mean, 35 points, 9 rebounds, 13 assists. Missed out on a triple-double last night. It was an MVP caliber performance from Luka Doncic. And also paired too, Fitzy, because while I think the number one conversation from last night's game is Luka Doncic, it should be Luka Doncic and what he adds to this Lakers team, how this Lakers team looks like a legitimate championship contender. I mean, we were talking about just a few weeks ago and months ago about if the Lakers could find themselves in the postseason. Now we're talking about the Lakers as legitimate championship contenders, and he has become the difference. But it's one thing that I think that we also should point out was the Lakers defense last night. That we've seen 2 duds of games from Victor Wembanyama, and a lot of that, Phoenix just a couple of days ago, and then the Lakers last night, whether it was Marcus Smart and his gritty defense, Dalton Connect was on Victor Wembanyama for a decent bit of last night. That's that Tennessee Rick Barnes defense coming to fruition at the next level. Didn't think we'd be seeing that. But I thought defensively, the Lakers showed a really good formula to stopping a guy in Wemby that looked unstoppable, especially if we want to go back to the opening night of the NBA.
Yeah, well, and part of this is teams got to figure out what they think the right approach is for Wemby. And Wemby got himself in foul trouble last night, actually fouled out of this game throughout the course of it. But I'll credit Dennis Dodd at ESPN, who pointed out that the way that the league is defending Wemby right now has suddenly changed. They're meeting him higher with little guys, and then they're making him get around the little guy to get to the next level defender, and that's where he's getting himself in trouble with some foul trouble. There are going to be moments here where Wemby's got to figure out how to grow through what the NBA throws at him, and that's the inevitable growth, right? That's the reminder that Wemby is much newer to the association than Luka is, right? Part of the process we talk about, particularly even if you take it to the NFL, you talk about quarterbacks all the time. Year 1, then year 2, you see the league adjust, and year 3, how do they all adjust together? I think in real time, quickly, we're seeing that everybody realizes you just got to keep throwing things at Wemby. And Wemby last night was not nearly as efficient as we're used to seeing, was not nearly as graceful as we're used to seeing. And yeah, it just speaks to the growth process. Now, this show has been kings and queens of the Wemby flag planting, right? Like, I think we could agree that we are just out here constantly saying he's the future of the NBA. But what I watched last night was a reminder that the Spurs might not be ready for where Wemby is going to be. That's been our big question over and over and over again. This was a great game last night. I don't want to take anything away from San Antonio, but San Antonio needed everything they had in the tank and more to come up just short, against the Lakers team that was shorthanded. It's just a reminder that there's farther to go, and that's why I think so much of my mindset last night was about the MVP conversation, because the Spurs have to be great for MVP to be in that for Wemby to be in that MVP conversation. For the Lakers, they do look great, and they're a bigger brand. And when you do great things for the Lakers, we're all seeing this at this point. Luka so far this year has now crossed 200 points in 5 games. He joins only Wilt and Michael as 2 people to do that. So we are now putting Luka in the same category as Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan. When you do that, and you do it wearing the Lakers colors, you're going to get props. Like you mentioned at the beginning of this, SGA is still the betting favorite. I can't make the world give a damn about SGA. I wish I could. I wish I could suddenly make us all massive stands of everything that Oklahoma City does. Can't do it. At the end of the day, there is some brands that there are some brands that carry extra cachet. The Lakers are one of them. If Luka is doing this in 5 games, if this just extrapolates to an entire season, my God, there's no way he's not taking home the MVP. And more importantly, to your point earlier, more importantly than all of that, if he plays at this level, the Lakers can certainly win a championship right now.
100%. And you also have to point out who's not playing for the Lakers right now. And that's LeBron James. That LeBron's been out all season long. That when the Lakers get LeBron back, I would expect this Lakers team to only reach another level, to unlock another level that we haven't yet seen. And that is frankly terrifying to me, Fitz. In a West that's already deep and already stacked, that I thought was already deep and already stacked, with not even considering the Lakers as legitimate championship contenders, at least going into this season. Now you add the Lakers that look like one of the hottest teams, not just in the West, but in the league. And a West that already felt deep feels that much deeper and that much more competitive. It's the Lakers with the star power. It's the brand that comes with the Los Angeles Lakers. And in a game last night that was 3 hours long, the last 1.2 seconds of the game felt like the most intriguing and most engaging. So credit to the Lakers for finding a way to win a very close game, because we talk about Wemby and how he had kind of a dud of a game. He's had a couple of duds on this West Coast road trip that the Spurs have been on, previously Phoenix and now against the Lakers. It was still a 2-point game, but credit to the Lakers for finding a way to win.
The shift in conversation is staggering around LeBron, because you're so right. A month ago, especially when we found out about the sciatica, the first thing people said is, well, LeBron's going to sit back. Like, this is what I love about current sports culture. Everybody's got a conspiracy theory. So, like, you can never actually be hurt. It has to mean some greater thing. So the minute we find out that there's sciatica, it's like, well, LeBron's just going to sit back on the sidelines and figure out if he even wants to be part of this team. He's going to watch it, see if it's good enough. That's what everybody was saying just a few weeks ago. He's going to wait and make sure that it's worth LeBron coming to. And in the short time so far of this NBA season, now we're sitting here saying, man, do they even really need LeBron? Of course, they're better with LeBron. But the point is, they've gone from, well, they got to prove it to LeBron, to all of a sudden turning around and saying, we got to prove it to LeBron, to we are absolutely elite right now without LeBron. Like today, because Oklahoma City took their first loss last night, the Lakers are 1 game out of first place in the West. 1 game out. And again, they won last night without Austin Reeves, who was out with some groin soreness. So, like, this was just Luka saying, nope, we're going to win this game. We're good. That's such a change from where we were just a few short weeks ago on the Lakers.
So let's stick there for a moment, because I'm with you. I think to say that the Lakers would be better off without LeBron James, it feels so icky and gross and just incorrect and inaccurate. But let's entertain that for a moment. Let's play devil's advocate and look at it from a different perspective. At what point does that actually start to have merit? At what point, when this Lakers team just continues to win, you see him number 2 in the West right now, 7-2. Luka had yet another incredible performance. You mentioned it, Austin Reeves out last night, but Austin Reeves has been averaging 30-plus points a game. Between those two, I mean, it's offensive fireworks with the Lakers. At what point do we start to really have that legitimate conversation of if the Lakers are better off without LeBron James? I can't right now, 9 games into the season on November 6th, say that is true, that has legitimate merit. But at what point do we really need to start entertaining that conversation? Is it when LeBron comes back? Do we need to see a couple of clunkers from LeBron? Or at what point do we get to that point? Do you feel like you'll ever get to that point?
Yeah, I think when LeBron comes back, if the Lakers continue to play at this clip, the real conversation is going to be, can LeBron come in and be part of something? Instead of being all of something, can LeBron be part of something? And look, the Lakers haven't hidden this over the course of the last year. Like, they are now Luka Doncic's team. And I don't think that LeBron necessarily is going to come in and try and ruffle those feathers. But to the point that we've made here, if you talk about Luka and you talk about Austin Reeves and how well they're playing together, it then becomes LeBron's job to walk into this situation and augment that without having to take anything away from that. So I think there'll be, whenever he comes back. And look, as I said yesterday, this entire situation. They're playing so far ahead of their skis right now. It buys them more time. Like, I'm resting LeBron as long as I can possibly rest LeBron, so that when we get into the playoffs, his body hasn't taken a lot of wear and tear. So, like, all of that makes sense to me. But when he gets back on the court, you can't tell me if there's just a little bit of a struggle. You can't tell me that that's suddenly not going to feed everybody that says, well, time to trade LeBron. Got to get rid of him. I think, look, let's oversimplify. When you are one of the greatest players in the world currently, and you are one of the two greatest players of all time, your team is going to be better with you on it. It's just a matter of how they all come together and whether or not you're still getting the best out of Austin Reeves and still getting the best out of Luka. I don't know, but I know right now I'm so stunned by how quickly the Lakers have gotten to the point that they're at that I think we have to recalibrate the expectations this season. I never would have imagined a week and a half ago I'd be saying it's championship or bust for the Lakers this year. But my God, the way Luka's playing right now, this has become one of those rare, you got to win a title sort of years. And that's not taken away from OKC. That's just saying, hey, when you have guys playing the way that Luka and Austin Reeves are playing, if they can sustain that, you got to win a chip. Like that, this is a wild change in tone around the Lakers for me.
I don't even think that's hyperbole. Because let's just play the assumption game for a moment. Let's assume that Luka continue to play at this rate. Let's assume, I think it's maybe not fair to assume that Austin Reeves is going to continue to play at this rate where he's dropping 40, 50 points a game. But let's assume that Austin Reeves can continue this at maybe a more sustainable rate. Let's just say a 25 to 35 point a game range, which is plenty when you are supplementing that with the production that you're getting from Luka Doncic. Let's assume that when LeBron James is back and is healthy, that he also can make a massive difference and a massive impact for this Lakers team. Don't think it's unfair to assume that LeBron has the ability to do that. If all of those three things come to fruition, we continue to see the Lakers play an incredibly physical style of defense that we saw them play last night against Wemby. You mentioned it. He fouled out last night. It was because of their physicality defensively. Why not a championship? If all of those things come to fruition, I agree with you. Anything short of a championship or at least a trip to the finals will feel disappointing.
Now, I also want to take the other side of this and point out, to me, the sky is not falling for the Spurs. Look, they've hit a little bit of a hard spot here. They don't have Dylan Harper. He's been out with injury. San Antonio is going to be just fine. But sometimes when you say that, like, I want to change the tone. Like, I make the same statement. San Antonio is going to be just fine. Like, it's funny how it's the same statement, just a much different tone. Look, they're still 5-2. And they started 5-0. They got themselves a little ahead. They've had a couple of rough games. It's a very long season. And Wemby's got to learn to zig while everyone is zagging in the way they approach him. I agree with all of that. I just think patience is a bit of a virtue with the Spurs, who are a particularly young team developing. And they don't have Pop anymore on the sidelines. Like, this isn't the San Antonio that we were used to for generation. I think a little bit of grace goes a long way with what San Antonio is building.
Yeah, but I do think we need to have the conversation of what is the timeline when we do start to hover our hand over the panic button. And it starts with Wemby. I mean, Wemby has laid back-to-back eggs. In Phoenix, he put up 9 points yesterday against the Lakers. Yeah, it was a 19-point effort, but it didn't feel like it, especially late in that game when he was getting into foul trouble. He was playing with a certain level of tentativeness that I think comes with being in foul trouble. But whenever Wemby has to play a little bit more delicately, to put, use a very flowery word, he's not going to be as impactful. His presence is not going to be felt at its highest level. So I think if we see Wemby lay another egg, have a few more over the next couple of weeks, then we need to start to talk about the pieces around Wemby's style of play. Are the Spurs putting Wemby in position to be as impactful as he possibly can? Because when we see Wemby reach his ceiling of impact, I think we saw it the first game against the Mavs when Wemby was a man amongst boys. Like, we know Victor Wembanyama and what he can do and how much his impact can be felt. But if we start to see back-to-back games or even more games over the next couple of weeks where that impact is not felt, I think we need to start to have a legitimate conversation. We also need to point out no De'Aaron Fox last night, as you pointed out as well. No Dylan Harper last night. So you have these supplementary pieces that weren't available last night for the Spurs. So of course things can change, and of course things are early, but I think we need to start talking about a panic timeline for Victor Wembanyama if we start to see these bad performances strung together.
I'll start to panic more too if we don't see somebody step up that can consistently be the star on a night when Wemby isn't. Most stars will have a bit of an off night. The Spurs need to have somebody that, if Wemby is Batman, the Spurs need to find their Bateman. Somebody that can come in that maybe is not Batman every night, but hey, he can come in this night and at least get you through it. The Lakers have proven they have that repeatedly. We will keep breaking it down. It was a huge night in the association, so we got a lot of NBA talk to get to. But coming up next, okay, the Broncos are locked to make the playoffs. The question is, can they actually win it all? We'll answer it next. Updated NFL playoff betting odds at BetMGM. Most bet to make the playoffs. You see the Chargers, Broncos, the Steelers. Funny enough, most bet to miss the playoffs. Ravens, Vikings, also the Steelers. But let's talk about the Broncos here. They look like they're a lock, according to BetMGM, to make the playoffs. But Caroline Fenton, in your mind, are they capable of actually winning the Super Bowl?
Yes. I do think that the Denver Broncos are capable of winning a Super Bowl, and it'll be in spite of Bo Nix. I don't trust Bo Nix, and I hate the fact that we have an obligatory Bo Nix pick every single week. It's almost like a bingo card. That's a free space. Go ahead and mark off Bo Nix interception, just a boneheaded interception that makes you do this. But I think the Broncos can win in spite of Bo Nix because of two things. One, Sean Payton. I trust Sean Payton. Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl before. He has been there before. Sean Payton is known as an offensive mastermind for a reason. I think that once they get into the grind of the postseason, because that's where the Broncos will be, Sean Payton will be able to foster a healthy enough environment around Bo Nix to where Bo Nix can't screw it up. The second thing is that defense. That defense is special. It's one of the best in the National Football League. They have one of the best secondaries in the National Football League, the best corner in the National Football League in Pat Surtain. They get after it, and they're nasty and physical up front at the line of scrimmage. So I trust, normally it's coach and quarterback for me. And while I don't trust Bo Nix wholeheartedly, I can trust coach and defense in this situation. Defense wins championships, Fitzy.
Yeah, defense wins championships when your quarterback doesn't throw you out of them. Look, I don't trust Bo Nix enough to win a Super Bowl. And there was a Frank Schwab yesterday, friend of the show, even though we mock his Frankings every week, the power rankings of Frank Schwab, tweeted out a graph that was put out by FTN, and it's yards left on the field by the quarterback. And this is uncatchable passes when the target was considered to be wide open. The league average for that is about 275 yards all season that has been left. By far and away, the number one quarterback in yards left on the field is Bo Nix with almost 800. He's missing guys that are wide open. Wide open. My concern is that, Bo Nix, like, you got 2 minutes to go in a game. I love the way Bo Nix runs a 2-minute drill. I feel good about that. You're in the beginning of a game. I don't like anything about Bo Nix. Like, Sean Payton is great, and this Broncos defense is spectacular. And we are just finding reasons to bend over backwards to justify why Bo Nix can lead the Broncos to a Super Bowl, because the rest of the team feels too damn good not to be in that conversation. But the reality of it is, I don't know how, when the game's won in the margins and you get to the best of the best. There's that chart. Great job by our team. When you get to the best of the best and the game's in the margins, I need that guy, that little tiny Bronco helmet that's all the way over there by almost 800. I need that guy to outduel Mahomes, to outduel Josh Allen, even to outduel, if he gets there, Lamar Jackson. Heck, if he gets one of the teams that might barely get in the playoffs, he's got to outduel Aaron Rodgers. Do I trust that? Almost 800 yards left on the field to take on actual competent quarterbacks week in and week out in the playoffs? Hell no. Cam Ward, who has been at best, isn't even near where Bo Nix is on this. I don't trust Bo Nix at all.
I mean, 800 yards left on the field. That's like 100 yards a game as a give or take. That's disgusting. In a game of inches, and you've left, on average, about 100 yards on the field. Ew. This is why I don't trust Bo Nix. Like, I'm not saying that the Broncos can win a Super Bowl because Bo Nix is just great and wonderful and amazing, and he is to the Broncos as Patrick Mahomes is to the Chiefs and Josh Allen is to the Bills. Do not get that twisted. I think they can win in spite of him, though, because the Broncos are 7-2, even though they've left about 100 yards on the field every single game. It's because the rest of this Broncos team can pick up the slack that's left with Bo Nix. And so many of their games came by such close margins. A 1-point loss to the Colts, a 3-point loss to the Chargers. And that was a Chargers team that was playing much better at the beginning of the season than they are playing right now with all of the injuries that they've suffered. Joe Alt on the field, Joe Alt off the field. So in spite of Bo Nix, they are 7-2 and atop the division. So why can't they continue that trajectory, especially in an AFC that feels so much more wide open, Fitz, than it has in a very long time? Look, I get it. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. And look, I get it. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs haven't looked like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs that we know that they can be all this season. The Buffalo Bills defense has plenty of holes that give me pause. Look, the Colts look great. The Colts look like very close to a complete team. And you add in Sauce Gardner, and my goodness, that's not a team that I would want to play in the playoffs. But the Broncos have those pieces as well, even though it's a quarterback that we don't necessarily trust. And I hate bringing up this argument because I feel like we're grabbing at straws rather than actually a legitimate argument. But I will bring up the fact we've seen Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl. We've seen Joe Flacco win a Super Bowl. We've seen Brad Johnson win a Super Bowl. And I know that those probably aren't the most fair of arguments to be made here, because it feels like this is a different NFL that is so much more quarterback driven than we've seen in a very long time, maybe in the history of the NFL. But it's possible. Look, we saw Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles win a Super Bowl last year. That's no disrespect to Jalen Hurts. Are any of us putting Jalen Hurts in the same caliber of quarterback as Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow? I'm not. I mean, Jalen Hurts has so many pieces around him that it was almost impossible to fail. I feel like the Broncos, while they're not the Philadelphia Eagles, they don't have the level of talent that the Philadelphia Eagles have. That's kind of the blueprint that I think the Broncos have to getting to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl.
Well, and you're not wrong. By the way, the last time, I think we all remember Peyton Manning winning a Super Bowl that wasn't really about Peyton Manning. It was about that Broncos defense. So
it's about the defense.
You're right. It can happen. Tonight, they'll take on the Raiders. The opposite side of this, everybody knows my fandom. Look, this is tough, Caroline, because, I even talked to Charles Robinson last night on Inside Coverage, and we were talking about coaches on the hot seat, and he asked, what's the plan in Vegas? And look, I'm lost. I'm as lost as anybody. I tell everybody, my first memories of watching the Raiders, I was probably 6-7 years old. So over 40 years, I've been watching my favorite team. I don't remember the last time I felt as lost as to how to fix a team as I do right now. Because, like, usually you can just look at it and say, well, everything sucks, everybody sucks, blow it all up, it's all terrible. That wasn't supposed to be the case this year. Like, even people in the league are surprised that Pete Carroll hasn't been able to turn things around. Even people in the league are surprised that Ashton Jeanty hasn't been able to be more consistent. Even people in the league are surprised by what Geno Smith has looked like this year. I don't think the Raiders right now, I don't know what to tell anybody because fans ask me all the time, should they want to lose? Should they go out there and tank? Man, I don't know. Pete Carroll's whole identity is built on compete. He uses the word, if you took a shot every time Pete Carroll says compete, you'd be dead. All right. So that's all he talks about is compete, 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 compete. You can't tank and have the same person lead the locker room with the theme of competing if everyone knows you're tanking. So I don't believe the Raiders are going to give up on this season. I just don't believe the Raiders are any good. Like, the Broncos are going to win this game, not because the Raiders are trying to tank. They're going to win because there's just a better football team top to bottom.
I always have to ask, teams that are bad, like, what's the path to not sucking anymore? Like, if we just want to boil it down and simplify it. I think I understand the Raiders' plan to not suck anymore the least of any of the bad teams in the NFL. Because after the trade deadline, I know the Jets' plan. The Jets wanted to blow it up, collect picks. On trade deadline day, they collected 3 firsts and a second over the next 2 years. Like, that's the Jets' plan. They want to, rebuild a roster and do it with Aaron Glenn. The Titans stink. The Titans are terrible. But they fired their head coach, and it looks like Cam Ward will be the future. Will that work? I don't know. I lean probably not. But that's at least a plan that I can see moving forward. The Saints, like, they want to move forward with their head coach. They want to collect picks, and they want to find their quarterback of the future because they've started 9 different quarterbacks over the last 4 years. Again, will it work? I don't know. Probably not, but that's a plan. What's the Raiders' plan? Like, is Pete Carroll the guy? I mean, he's the oldest coach in the NFL right now. So is he your future? Probably not. Is Geno Smith your future? Absolutely not. So what's the plan to dig yourself out of this hole? I don't know. Like, I don't see that framework coming into place for the Raiders for them to dig themselves out of the sea of suck that they have been in for so long.
No, I mean, all they got to do is draft an entirely new offensive line, find a young quarterback to build around, get some new wide receivers, get a better defensive line outside of Max Crosby, and some help in the secondary. That's it. And don't worry.
It's that simple.
That's that simple. And they have the 3rd most cap space next year. But also the Titans and the Jets have a ton of cap space, and the Chargers have the most. So if you're a free agent, you could go play anywhere. You're going to play for the Titans, Raiders, and Jets, or you're going to play for the Rams and Chargers, who are also top 5 in cap space. So to answer your question, there is no real solution to the problem.
How are the Rams top 5 in cap space?
I have no idea. I was stunned when I saw that too. It's just because my favorite team is not run by people as smart as the Rams. All right, we got Thursday Night Football tonight. We got Broncos taking on the Raiders. Short week, obviously rivalry matchup that means a lot for both of these teams. What do you think, Caroline? What do you got in this one?
I have the Broncos winning this one, and I have the Broncos winning this one big. And if I am wrong, Fitz, please, by all means, rub my face in it tomorrow, because that's what you deserve to do as a fan. I have Denver winning this one 28-10. And I think 10 points might even be generous for the Raiders. Their offense has been so lackluster, with the exception of Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty last week, of course. But this Denver defense is so good. It's hard for anyone, I think, to score on this Denver team. So I will take the Denver Broncos in a big win.
So, look, the football gods aren't kind enough to let me watch a blowout, because then at least I can just sit on the couch and forget about my worries while I watch my team get killed. No. This is Broncos Raiders. It'll be close, and I'll get my heart broken at the end. That's the way these things go. I do think they'll be able to put points up. Short week. Points usually come big in the second half on Thursday Night Football so far this year on short weeks. Also, Brock Bowers being back, he is the one sort of cheat code that the Raiders have. So if the Broncos win, but the Broncos win 34-31 in the sort of game that isn't that. It's like 34-21. Raiders score some points at the end. I get just hopeful enough that I think maybe things can turn around. And then tomorrow, not only am I sad, but I'm also tired. That's the way the game's going to go. 34-31, the Broncos win. We both picked the Broncos, and my misery will continue. All right, coming up, we got plenty more to get to. From bad football to good football. What is the impact of what's happening right now from the ownership group in the Colts? We'll tell you about it next. I love this AI pick of Carlie Irsay-Gordon at the poker table going all in for Sauce Gardner. Carlie Irsay-Gordon at this point, part of the ownership group. There are three sisters that are all the kids of Jim Irsay that own the Indianapolis Colts. And Irsay-Gordon is operating as the primary owner and the CEO of the Colts. And she's getting a lot of hype right now, Caroline Fenton, because we've seen her all over the place. She's on the sidelines wearing the headset. It's become a phenomenon. I will point out that there are other owners that listen, but not on the sidelines. So there's just become something incredible about watching her standing on the sidelines, watching her get involved. She said flat out in press conferences repeatedly, how can I know who's good at their jobs if I'm not aware of what's going on? You see the charts in her hands. Like this is a phenomenon where we're watching real time an owner that just inherited the team after the passing of her father just a few months ago. And now we're watching her get up to speed right away and show her unique identity as an owner. It's really an inspiring thing to see.
It really is. And she's doing it differently. And that's refreshing, frankly, especially in a league that feels like, okay, we've always done it this way, so we'll continue to do it this way. I think we see some ownership groups taking that approach. And I always say, if we do everything the same way we've always done it, this would be a very, very scary place. So I like the fact that Carlie Irsay-Gordon is taking a different approach and doing it in her own individualistic way. I also have to say that she accessorizes hands down better than any other owner in the league. I mean, look at her. She's fitted all the time we see her. The hat, the glasses, the necklaces. Fantastic. But I do want to point out, though, she took over the team. Jim Irsay, former owner of the Indianapolis Colts, of course, unfortunately passed earlier this year, just before the start of training camp. So Carlie Irsay-Gordon took over, principal ownership duties when everything, the roster was set, the coaching staff was set. So this year for the Colts, obviously, we all know has been, fantastic. It's been so fun to watch. The Colts have kind of felt like they've been America's team, kind of that underdog team, whether it's Daniel Jones himself or the identity of the Colts coming out of the AFC, that everybody wants somebody to shake up this AFC. Was a really positive feeling toward the Colts. But I can't give Carlie Irsay-Gordon a whole lot of the credit for what we've seen the Colts do because she took over so late in the season. But what I will give Carlie Irsay-Gordon credit for is this newfound positive public perception, say that 5 times fast, of the Indianapolis Colts. Everybody loves the Colts, I think. At least the overall perception of the Colts, I think, is a positive one. We love to see this career renaissance for Daniel Jones. We love to see the Colts, competing against the Chiefs and the Bills and the AFC. And I think that Carlie Irsay-Gordon has been such a likable figure. Look at her right there. She's involved with the fans. She meets with the media. She's on the sidelines. She wants to learn. There are a lot of ownership groups that are so hands off of their respective teams that it rubs fans the wrong way. They want an owner to answer for the shortcomings of their franchises. So I think that Carlie Irsay-Gordon is such a likable person that I will give her a lot of credit for the public perception of this Colts team.
Yeah, likability earns you benefit of the doubt in most things in life, right? And so she has that.
So does
where
winning.
I will right. And so where I will immediately give her a ton of credit is what we just saw. I mean, the AI of the chips going all in, but I don't believe the Colts make aggressive trades without Irsay-Gordon having a real understanding of who's in the room and understanding why they want the player. One thing she has stressed is, how do I know who's full of it? How do I know who's lying to me? How do I know who knows what's going on? She even went on one interview afterwards talking about, you hear that it's a wide receiver's fault, but until you have the headset on, now you might find out that it was the wrong call that got to the wide receiver. You might find out that there was miscommunication. That's how detailed she is in her work of knowing what's going on. You have to assume that played into any conversation about trading 2 first-round picks for a corner. She has to have faith in the GM, Ballard. She has to have faith in the coach, Shane Eichen. She has to have faith in the overall direction of the franchise and feel like, yes, it is worth this risk, because they're not making this trade, especially this early in her ownership career. They're not making this trade without the family's approval, right? So to me, all of this work and all of these things that we are talking about shows itself when it comes time for a trade. And one thing that C-Rob told me yesterday that I thought was pretty interesting on Inside Coverage is that the Jets went from, we're not trading Sauce Gardner, to Sauce Gardner is gone in under 24 hours. It literally was that fast. Under 24 hours, it was like, hey, we might need to do this. That speaks to the fact that the Colts were ready to make an aggressive offer that made a team listen. And that speaks to ownership being involved and having trust in the people that are doing their jobs. Transitional periods for owners can be really awkward for any sports team. So to me, if you are sitting here and you're asking what impact, having Irsay-Gordon listen on a headset has, it has the impact of her having faith in the people to do their jobs. And we saw that at the trade deadline. So I give her a ton of credit for that. Let's see how the move works out.
Yeah, and I gave and will continue to give the Colts a lot of credit for being aggressive at the trade deadline. I would never send 2 first-round picks for a corner because I don't think that any cornerback in the NFL is worth that. Maybe Pat Surtain, he would be the one. But just because I wouldn't do it doesn't mean that it's not going to be a positive outcome for the Indianapolis Colts, because the Colts now find themselves in the most competitive position that they've been in a long time. They have never won the division under Chris Ballard. It's been over a decade. And we're talking about a division with the Jags and the Titans and the Texans. That's a whole lot of crap franchises right there. And those teams have found themselves in the top spot in the division before before the Colts have. The Colts are finally in a position not just to win the division, but to win the Super Bowl. So credit to ownership. Credit to Chris Ballard, who is not typically aggressive at the trade deadline. And credit to Shane Steichen for saying, look, we're finding ourselves in a legitimate championship window. We will push all of our chips into the middle. We will risk our next 2 first-round picks. We will risk, running it back with Daniel Jones and committing ourselves to Daniel Jones if it means that we capitalize on a championship window. I will praise aggressiveness and people who put their jobs on the line to capitalize on Super Bowl windows.
I care a lot about culture. And I say all the time, culture is created top down. So to me, everybody in the building learns something when you see an owner this involved in knowing, hey, is the GM doing his job the right way? Is the coach doing his job the right way? We hear about meetings. That's common after games. Coaches and owners sit down. You see that all the time. But when you start talking about the accountability day in and day out, the accountability on game day, I think seeing an owner involved in it this way is inspiring for culture. That being said, though, Caroline, let's be honest and let's be fair here. We haven't seen bad football from the Colts. So today, with everything going great, it looks like this is absolutely perfection. I'll be real. I don't want Mark Davis, as a Raiders fan, I don't want Mark Davis walking around on the sidelines with a headset on. He's not going to offer any help to it, and it might only make things worse, right? If I'm a Jets fan, I don't want Woody walking around, like Woody from Toy Story or Woody, my owner, walking around with a headset on, like trying to tell my coaches what to do. By God, if I'm the Cowboys, the last thing we need is Jerry Jones. Like, how would we react tomorrow if on Thursday Night Football we saw Mark Davis on the sidelines and the Raiders lost? We saw Mark Davis with a headset on, with taking notes, and we saw the Raiders lose. How would we react on Monday if we watched the Cowboys lose and Jerry's pacing the sidelines with a headset on? The benefit here is that we haven't seen bad yet from the Colts under her ownership, so all of this looks like a great thing. There is a fine line between being a involved owner that's really great and a meddling owner, right? And there's a fine line between being an uninvested, like Amy Adams-Strunk for the Titans is an uninvested owner. You don't want that either. I don't know where the teeter-totter, where the seesaw actually normalizes out, but as long as the results are great, we're not going to question anything that Irsay-Gordon is doing because it's working for the Colts. If the record were flopped, or if the Colts suddenly become one of those teams, and we've seen it several times in the last few years, start 7-2 and 7-9 or 7-10, I should say. Like, all of a sudden, we're going to feel much differently about it. So one of the benefits that we have in this analysis is we've only seen positive.
Look, when you're winning, everything is great. Everything is wonderful. Nothing gets put under a microscope. Alternatively, when you are losing, everything is under a microscope, and everything is bad, and everyone is stupid. I mean, even what the head coach wears on the sideline will get criticized if you are losing. That's just the NFL. Like, welcome to sports. Your culture when you're winning is great. Your culture when you're losing is bad. Your owner when you're winning is great. Your owner when you're losing is bad. Coach, quarterback, that applies to literally everything. And the owners that you just mentioned, Woody Johnson, Mark Davis. I'll throw the Haslams in Cleveland in there. Amy Adams Strunk with the Titans. Bad owners. And we would hate to see them with a headset on the sidelines, taking notes, because we know that they are bad owners. Because they have a long history of actively hurting their football team. Jerry Jones, same way. No one's more involved than Jerry Jones is. My goodness. Because we know we have plenty of a sample size to know that those are bad owners. We don't have that with Carlie Irsay-Gordon. All we know of Carlie Irsay-Gordon as the principal owner of the Indianapolis Colts is the fact that they are 7-2 and are a top spot in their division. They look like Super Bowl contenders. So until they don't look like that, everything Carlie Irsay-Gordon does will get praised. But that's not exclusive to her. That is the same energy that we bring to anyone else and everyone else in the NFL.
It's amazing because, again, when you're in transition with ownership, it's easy for things to fall apart. And the first year of any new ownership group is their chance to really show who they are as owners. And I think what we've seen so far, whether it's the luck of the draw, whether it's the greatness in the building, we'll never know. Whether it was the bricks that were originally laid by Jim Irsay that are now being followed on, we'll never know. What we know is that suddenly Daniel Jones has found a resurgence, and the Colts have found a resurgence, and this Colts offense has found its life in ways we never imagined. And a team that's been sort of stuck mid, it's been a 6-7 team, is all of a sudden finding themselves at the top of the AFC or near the top of the AFC in a real Super Bowl contender. And it's all happening at the same time that we're watching new ownership sort of establish who they're going to be. The best way to establish a winning culture is to win football games, and it's happening right now. So a lot of praise goes to the Colts organization. A lot of praise goes to Irsay-Gordon. A lot of praise goes to how this is going down.
I will be fascinated too, because every year around the Super Bowl, the NFLPA report cards come out, and it's grading, team travel, treatment of families, facilities, and ownership. That every team owner gets a grade from the locker rooms and from their teams. I'll be fascinated to see the grade that Carlie Irsay-Gordon gets. If the perception and the way that we feel publicly about Carlie Irsay-Gordon is also kind of felt in the locker room. Last year, when Jim Irsay was still the active and controlling owner of the team, ownership got a B. I'll be fascinated to see if that changes now that Carlie Irsay-Gordon is calling the shots.
All eyes will be on how Indianapolis can finish what's already started as a tremendous season. Plenty more to break down. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll explain to you the newest betting scandal in college basketball. Good Lord, there's a scandal a day. We come back with breaking tragic news from Dallas. Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland has passed away at the age of 24. The team has announced. The quote is, "With extreme sadness that the Dallas Cowboys share that Marshawn Kneeland tragically passed away this morning. Marshawn was a beloved teammate and a member of our organization. Our thoughts are with Marshawn and his girlfriend, Catalina, and his family." Also, Jane Slater has pointed out that with a quote from defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer, quote, "He was a great person, eager to learn, wanted to be great. He didn't take any crap from anyone on the field. He studied hard, loved playing the game, tough." Zimmer added, quote, "My last conversation with him was keep being you. You're going to have a great career." This is tragic news, and we will keep you updated on any updates that we have. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Marshawn's family and everybody that's impacted by this passing. There is no possible way to transition to sports, but we will try and do that as we continue our conversation on Yahoo Sports Daily. That conversation continues around college basketball. As we get back to the news of the day, part of the news of the day comes in the form of college basketball scandal in the form of gambling. So we obviously have another scandal. It's a scandal of the day. It feels like gambling is impacting everything that we do every single day. Caroline Fenton. And if we're being honest, I'm not surprised. This is only going to continue. The NBA, by the way, and Congress met on Wednesday to discuss their ongoing gambling probe on Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones. Damon Jones will be the first person to actually have his day in court as his first hearing comes up. And look, part of that, I think, is just Congress wants to know what the NBA knew. Congress wants to know how much information was there. Congress wants sort of all of the information they can get from the league about what they knew, how they investigated, and what they did. To me, that makes sense. This just feels like the moment where Congress says, tell us your process so we know exactly if everybody did the right things the right way. I don't expect some sweeping action out of this. This just feels like a meeting of communication.
It feels like a meeting of communication. It feels like a necessary meeting to say, hey, we did it. We talked to the NBA, we talked to the FBI, and we put out everything that we know. We are committed to getting to the bottom of this. It feels like a necessary box that needs to be checked on both sides, whether it's in respect to the NBA or in the FBI. I'm with you. I don't expect anything massive to come from this. I don't think that the NBA is going to kind of indict themselves in anything. This just feels like hey, let's air everything that we know, and then we'll move forward with our investigation.
Transparency will continue to be key in all of this gambling stuff. And that's not the only issue we get with it now, because Amanda Kristovich of Front Office Sports furthered a story on Wednesday that ESPN broke over the past month. 30 current and former D1 college basketball players are being investigated for gambling violations, including betting on their own games, sharing insider information, and manipulating performances. The cases involve at least Arizona State, Temple, University of New Orleans, Fresno State. Not sure what the full scope of it yet. We don't know all the details. But the NCAA has warned that penalties start at a permanent loss of eligibility. And Caroline, I think we have to remember that there's not much else the NCAA can do. Like, I think one of the things that was lost in the immediacy of the reaction to the NBA betting scandal was something that Adam Silver has pointed out several times since then. Look, we don't have subpoena power. We don't have wiretap power. We can't make people give us information. We can only ask. The NCAA doesn't have arresting power, right? Like, teams can sit there and try, and they can try their best to monitor what kids are doing, but it is impossible for every coach and every program and every team and every place and every AD to know what each kid is doing 24/7. It's impossible. So the NCAA saying, hey, that this could result in permanent loss of eligibility, that's as thunderous as they can get in any punishment in my mind.
100%. I mean, we talk about the death penalty for institutions, SMU football in the late 80s and 90s. Well, that is an individual death penalty. That is, look, you are banished from playing in the NCAA forever and always. Amen. And then we also have to add on top of the fact that if you're banished from the NCAA and you have a permanent loss of eligibility, well, then there's not going to be a single NBA general manager that's going to touch you with a 10-foot pole because you were an issue in college. So it's essentially what the NCAA is doing in taking away eligibility is essentially ending your career. And that's what the punishment should be if you are breaking the rules, if you are point shaving, if you are fixing games. That is, in the eyes of professional leagues and the NCAA, That is one of the biggest violations that you can make as a coach, as an individual, as a player, so on and so forth. Because there might be people saying, well, throw the book at the athletic departments. The university should have to pay for this. We had the same conversation in the NBA FBI probe of, we blame the NBA, blame the sports books, blame, all of the involvement between the professional leagues and these sports books. I'm so tired of punishing institutions for the behavior of individuals. If it comes out that the NBA knew of all of this and didn't do anything about it, then sure, we'll punish the NBA. Same thing with the NCAA. If the NCAA knew, or the Arizona State, University of New Orleans, so on and so forth, athletic departments knew of this and didn't do anything about it, that's a different story. Then we can start to talk about punishing the institutions. But you mean to tell me that right now we can say for certain that the UNO AD knew about some basketball player betting on himself in his dorm room or his apartment? I can't make that assumption. So we have to punish individuals for breaking the rules and not automatically jumping to punishing the institutions.
One of my dear friends always said, I'll say it properly for air because I can't say his verbiage, own your stuff. As an individual, always own your stuff. Accept your fault in anything that's happening in your life, and I feel like that's lost, Caroline. You're right, and I want to take people down the little thing called a history book. This is where everybody says, "Oh my God, I can't believe gambling scandals." Let me tell you about the 1951 CCNY scandal. That was a scandal that involved 35 players from 7 colleges who admitted to taking bribes to fix 86 college basketball games between 1947 and 1950. If you don't like that one, how about the 1961 NCAA University Division scandal? 37 players from 22 colleges that led to players and gamblers being arrested in that, including Connie Hawkins, Roger Brown, future Hall of Famers. How about the 1978-79 Boston College scandal, where they admitted to organized crime, admitted to shaving points during 9 games in 1978-79. Everybody that's sitting there screaming, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. This has been happening since the dawn of time. We're just catching it now. Like, again, 1947 to 1950, 35 players fixed 86 games. What are we talking about? Like, this is
Let's
always
start with the
existed in college
1919
basketball.
Black Sox. I know
100%.
it's baseball, but we're talking about the 1919 Black Sox when they threw a World Series. I mean, yes, this has been happening since the beginning of time. And this has also been going on behind closed doors. There's probably so many instances that have happened in history that we have no idea about because nobody was monitoring it. Now we have checks and balances that exist that we can catch wrongdoings. And I think that's a positive thing, no?
Yeah, 100% it is. I mean, I talk often because it impacted my childhood. The year after, or right after UNLV lost to Duke in the notable Final Four loss that ended the undefeated season, there was a picture on the cover of the Las Vegas Review-Journal of their star players sitting in a Mafia point fixer's hot tub. And it was like, oh my God, UNLV shaving points. Like, this has been going on forever. All we can do is ask ourselves, are we doing the best we can to investigate it? And when you catch people doing it, you're doing the best you can. I don't think that there's a real fix that's a real solution to this problem. Like, we're not going to eliminate, like, look, at the end of the day, the NCAA lacks the power to eliminate the ability to bet on props. Like, that, for anyone that says we're just going to get rid of prop betting, that would take an actual act of Congress. Congress would have to then go to the sports books and tell them they're not allowed to do that anymore. Is Congress going to get involved in that level for prop betting? I don't know. And even if they do, that's something that's going to take years to get done. That's not something that immediately gets done, right? So there isn't something that the NCAA can do other than say, this is against the rules, and if you do it, we will punish you accordingly. The NFL can say, this is against the rules, and if you do it, we will punish you accordingly. I don't know what everybody else wants. Like, at some point, you've used the comparison before of alcohol. Like, at some point, we just have to acknowledge that there is temptation to athletes all over the board, whether it's temptation in lifestyle, whether it's temptation to going out to the club, whether it's temptation of people taking your money, whether it's temptation in bad business deals, whether it's temptation in drinking, drugs, or gambling. There's temptation everywhere. It is not my job to figure out how to get some kid in a school to figure out how to manage his temptation. It's his job. And if he does the wrong thing by it, he's going to get punished. I don't know what else we can do. Like, it's not my job to come in and police all of society and figure out how to fix everything for the people that simply can't handle the temptation that's in front of them.
Yeah, and now in NIL era, players make adult money. And when you make adult money, you will be treated like an adult. But I do think that it is noteworthy that a lot of the teams and programs that we are talking about in this NCAA gambling scandal are mid-majors. It's University of New Orleans, it's Temple, it's Fresno State. I've heard Alabama State thrown around in there in several articles that I've read. We're not talking about the Dukes and North Carolinas of the world. Is that noteworthy to you?
No, I mean, I think it speaks to the fact that you do more when you have less. You do more that you shouldn't do when you have less. And I hear that. I hear that. I will only say this, Caroline. I hear that all the time. I grew up poor enough that we had one box of mac and cheese in the house for the day. That was our food for the entire family. One box of mac and cheese combined was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can grow up with nothing and still choose not to break the rules. That is up to you. It is up to you, and every personal accountability has to matter at some point. All right, we will continue breaking down everything going on in college basketball and the NBA with our superstar guest coming up next. Monica McNutt going to join the show. We're about to get a hell of a lot smarter. She's the best. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. New York moves to 5-0 at home for the first time since 2012-2013 after a big win last night, and somebody that was there to see all of it in person, in action. Monica McNutt joins the show right now. Monica, it's good to see you, my friend. So is something special happening in New York other than just the Knicks and you? Is a special season brewing?
I think so, Jason. Good morning, guys. It's good to be with you. Look, everybody's been very clear about what the goal is this year. I mean, you don't make a move like move on from a head coach that took you back to the conference semifinals after umpteen years, right? So everybody is clear at what's on the table, what the opportunity is for this season. Now, have there been a little bit of growing pains so far, including an 0-3 road trip? For sure. But you still have that guy, Jalen Brunson, who's terrific. You still have Karl-Anthony Towns. And quite frankly, you maintain a core that has only gotten better year in and year out over the last 3.5 years or so. So, yeah, I think this is a special season. It is obviously a high-pressure season. The city is alive with enthusiasm, and the players know what they're trying to get done.
And we knew when the Knicks moved on from Tibbs and brought in Mike Brown that the identity of this team was going to look different. Even Karl-Anthony Towns said at the beginning of the season, I don't know what my role is going to be, but we'll figure it out. So now that we're 8 games in, have they figured it out?
No, they are still figuring it out. And everybody's like, so how many games? How many games? I think they are currently in a 7-game road or homestand, excuse me. They've got 4 games to go. The end of this trip will make 12 games. For me, December 2nd will make, I believe the number is 20 games, but they will have this homestand and have had a 5-game road trip under their belt to see what that looks like. So December 2nd, I want to say that's Boston. I'm not sure, but that's the date I'm sort of looking for to begin my first thesis, if you will, on what the identity of this squad is. Because I think, frankly, Caroline, it's not just about this team learning Mike Brown. It's about Mike Brown also learning this team. I don't think any coach can put themselves in the most successful position if the system cannot be tailored to its personnel. And so I think there's still a lot of learning on both sides happening here in New York.
What's the biggest difference in Mike Brown's coaching versus Tibbs?
Press conferences. I mean, Mike is just so forthright and jovial and playful. And I wish I had my notes and I wish I could show you. I'd let you see it. Kidding aside, though, this system is a lot faster. It is freer. I don't know. We'll see, though, because you guys know, you've watched enough basketball. Yeah, fast and free, particularly in this era of the NBA, is great. But when it gets down to clutch time, when we get into the playoffs, when things slow down, you do and are fortunate to have a guy like Jalen Brunson, who's the reigning clutch player of the year. But I think so far, it took a minute for there to be some buy-in on the player side. And I think Mike is also willing to make some adjustments. And so in the last 3 games here in New York, I think you're beginning to see this offense take a grasp. But it's not just about the changes offensively. Philosophically, he's coming with a different mindset defensively as well. But the word that these folks have been churning out all season long is accountability, and that applies on both sides.
So we know the Knicks were right on the doorstep of the finals last year. Let's go to another team that was right on the doorstep of the finals, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. The rumor mill has been rumor milling, and it has been churning out some rumblings of Ja Morant potentially to Minnesota. Do you see that being a fit?
I don't see that. Now, listen, the basketball, yes. Mike Conley, respected, nearly 20-year veteran, doesn't have the same bounce. Rob Dillingham maybe has not emerged in the way that was envisioned when he was drafted. Insert stellar point guard in Ja Morant. Okay, that makes sense. However, and I love Ja Morant. Ja Morant was attached to some of my best moments as I sort of was ascending into this space. But I just don't know that Minnesota organizationally is in a position to absorb all that comes with Ja right now. Do I believe that an opportunity away from Memphis might give him a fresh start and help change his perspective? Sure. But I just don't know at this point if it's worth it if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves. You've got Anthony Edwards. He is your centerpiece. I don't know. Is that a risk you're willing to take? I love Chris French. I don't know Chris French to be established as sort of the Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra sort of energy of an organization that doesn't take no stuff. Like, I just don't know if you're prepared to absorb all that comes with him right now. But from a point guard standpoint, sure, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but when you say that, Monica, I almost feel like, and this feels like a weird way to say this, it makes it feel like Memphis and Ja are sort of stuck together because I'm not sure how many places can absorb the personality, the stuff that comes with Ja that has nothing to do with him on the court. Well, how do they fix it then?
So, Fitz, I'm with you. And a lot of it obviously is going to be on Ja and his camp to look in the mirror and figure out how I can move forward in a way that is mature and doesn't tank my career. I was literally at dinner the other day with some friends who happen to work for Nike. And we were like, 2 years ago, Ja was poised to be the face of the league. Like, we all could not get enough of this young man. And it is disheartening what has unfolded since then. Now, do I think that we all can learn and grow from our mistakes? Sure. But that's going to have to be a decision that Ja Morant makes internally. I will say this, in today's NBA, I think when a star wants to get somewhere and there is mutual interest, things can happen. But for Ja to voice interest in an organization, I'm sure there would be behind the scenes conversations that would mean that he's going to do his part in terms of cleaning up the off court stuff. And frankly, guys, as much as the off court stuff has kind of become part of the peer view right now, he's also navigated some injuries as of late. And for a guy that was predicated on his potential being the face of the league, on his high flying stellar play, you have a couple of knee, lower body injuries. Can your game adjust and continue to evolve, not being so heavily predicated on your athleticism? And we haven't just had an opportunity to see that just because he has not been healthy.
Now, I'm with you on the Minnesota front. it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the off the court sense. But let's just say in a fantasy world that a divorce between Ja and Memphis is inevitable. Where does make sense for Ja Morant?
Caroline, girl, girl,
How much time do we have?
Girl. It's funny because since this has started percolating, I've been thinking about it, right? The basketball of the Minnesota piece would be really cool. From a structure standpoint, you think of a Miami immediately, right? I think I wonder if an organization, and again, like I would imagine that for Ja, it's a little bit more than just a fresh start. You don't necessarily want to make a lateral move in terms of positioning. But Sacramento has crossed my mind in this conversation a bit. I mean, you think of like the Houston and the Dallases, they've already sort of made their big moves. I don't know if there's a world in which the Clippers would want to explore it, just because they, again, have had guys that have not been able to stay on the floor and stay healthy. I guess for me, the first thought was a let's tighten it up organization. And the first thought was Miami. Now, I don't know if that's the city that would necessarily solve these issues for Ja, but that was, I'm kind of tapped out because I think too, you can be in a position where the league begins to pass you by, right? A year ago or 2 years ago, we might have said Philly, right? They had not necessarily, Tyrese Maxey had not necessarily emerged, or let alone VJ Edgecombe had not been drafted. And I'm blanking on the kid's name out of Duke that got hurt last year, who had been terrific at that point guard position, right? In terms of organizations that gave you an opportunity to go and compete, right? You can't necessarily say Charlotte, LaMelo's there. You can't look at Atlanta, Trey's there. Like, I just don't know. Cade Cunningham's in Detroit. Where is this juice going to be worth the squeeze? And I am coming up with a hard time figuring that out.
Look, y'all have missed a total boat. Send him to Utah. Nobody can get in trouble in Utah. I don't really care if it works in basketball. You just can't get in trouble in Utah. It's impossible to get in trouble. I've tried. You cannot get in trouble in Utah. All right, let me ask you this.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, we'll move. We'll move. Nobody wants to go to Utah. I love you, Utah. Sorry, small shade. The Mavericks lose to the Pelicans 2-6 at this point. At what point do we start to scream about the Mavericks and where they are and what a disaster that's become?
Guys, what? No, we're not screaming. Like, it's 10 games in, or it's less than 10 games in. I'm not worried about anybody right now. I'm not, unfortunately, I wish I could say that I am a little bit surprised by the Pelicans, but good for them getting a W. I'm not screaming about anything right now. I would argue that half the league is still getting in shape, and there's that. I think new systems, new positions, the absence of a traditional point guard in Dallas in particular, like, they got a lot to figure out. I'm not screaming about anybody yet. It's still very early in the season.
Monica, you do such a fantastic job covering the NBA, but you also do a great job covering the W and the women's basketball side of things. We learned on October 30th, there would be a 30-day extension for the WNBA CBA deadline. What's your level of confidence that a new deal gets done at the extension on November 30th?
I think it's going to get kicked down the can or down the road again. The can is going to get kicked down the road again. I'm not feeling great, Carolina. I'm really not. I think when this all hit the fan and Nafisa Collier detonated, so to speak, I was like, ooh, could you be further apart? I know that no one wants to go to a lockout, and you got to miss training camp, start missing training camp time, which would be in May, the end of April. So you got some time to figure it out. But these sides are really far apart. And one of the things that I'm hearing as I'm talking with players, former players, just kind of being around, wanting to see where this is going, housing has come up as a sticking point because under the current system, most teams provide housing for their players. And I think the question is fair that if these salaries go up, is housing still a part of the deal? So that has emerged as one of the sticking points that I was not at the forefront in my mind. I was thinking more about insurance, prioritization, veteran minimums, the things that we've heard. But this is intricate stuff. And I've also been asked, guys, should Adam Silver get involved? Or does it look like the W can't handle itself? This is a historic collective bargaining agreement. It is a historic negotiation. When you talk to women from other leagues that play in different sports, they will tell you that the WNBA sets the table for women's sports at large. The NWSL, the PHL, like the whatever, name the league, it's looking at how the WNBA handles its business. And so I'm like, because of the magnitude and the importance of this negotiation, bring in whoever you got to bring in to make sure that this thing gets done well so that we can continue to move forward at large in women's sports. I also think it's important to note, and I don't know if folks know this, the range, we'll call it, in ownership groups in the WNBA, I guess it may be similar to the NBA when you think about how much money some of the top owners have, but there's a large range. And so when you think of a Mark Davis in Vegas, Joe and Clara Tsai in New York, the ownership group in Ishbia and Company in Phoenix, and the group in Seattle with the New Climate Pledge Arena, they are not indicative of the sort of pockets around the league in terms of being able to afford the latest and greatest for their players. Now, personally, to me, that's not the players' problem, because you are moving into an era where these women are expecting to be treated like first-class athletes as they deserve. But this is tenuous. This is sticky. And Kathy Engelbert obviously represents not just the players. In fact, maybe percentage-wise, more so leans toward the owners. So I understand why this is going to take time.
Do you believe that this will result in a lockout?
My initial reaction as we prepared for the finals was, ooh, we headed straight toward a lockout. Now, I have sat back a little bit. We've got a lot of time to get it done. I'm not sure where the players are on the revenue share. I think that's probably the most popular conversation. And it's not just landing on a percentage or close to the percentage that they desire. That then obviously trickles into the housing conversation and so much more. And so I'm unclear on how much the players are willing to budge, in that regard. And that makes me nervous about a lockout. Frankly, Fitz, and I was having this conversation with Carolyn Peck, who is a Hall of Famer and just a woman of women's basketball. She's done it all. I'm like, well, if there's a potential lockout, we're in October, now November. Are the players having conversations with the members of the league about, all right, save and be prepared? And aren't a lot of them still playing overseas? And so I'm trying to figure out what a lockout actually looks and feels like for women who a large percentage of still get a large piece of their income from overseas play. Is it ideal? No. But I wonder if ever there was a time where players could unify and prepare. Is the W in a position to absorb that from a player's sustainability and livelihood standpoint? Now, the sad part of all that, guys, as you guys know, is you lose so much momentum now with the new TV rights deals and new partners and the visibility. But I also am like, look, the NBA has had lockouts. The MLB might have one. Like, this is a part of sports at large. And so women at the table acting as athletes and putting their gender aside, all right, let's get it. Whatever happens, happens. Just get it right so that the future can be set up.
Get it right. That's the biggest thing. Quickly, Monica, before we let you go, I want to transition to the college side of things. We know Juju Watkins out for the season with an ACL tear, which just hurts my heart. But this is an amazing opportunity for more stars to step forward and become the face of the league. Who do you think that player can be?
Oh, girl, Caroline, I got to get back into my college bag because I wasn't quite ready for that. I know UConn was on the other day. I know South Carolina will be back in full force. There's a kid out of Vanderbilt who I'm blanking on her name, but I like
Michaela Blakes.
Hoopin'. Yes. Okay. Hooping. I'm
Hooper.
Excited for her to see what that looks like. Next time I come through with you guys, I'm gonna have my top 5 women stars to watch because I gotta dig. It's funny. The other day I had it on while I was getting ready for some Knicks stuff, and I was like, I gotta tap in and make sure I know what's going on with my girlies.
Well, top 5 stars to watch has always been you, my friend. Monica McNutt, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Check her out on ESPN.
Thank you
Check
so
her out on the
much.
Knicks broadcast. Always kicking ass, taking names. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, guys. Good to see y'all.
Appreciate you.
Monica McNutt doing God's work there. All right. It's Thursday. You know what that means. Trap games. Well, we do it different. Thirst Trap Thursdays coming up next. It's a thirst trap. Beware. It's time for trap games on Thursday. That's what we do. We take one game. We find we're each going to pick one game, and we're going to figure out if it's a trap game for somebody. We've done pretty well in these, and Caroline Fenton still hasn't seen Star Wars, so she still doesn't get the reference. It's the weekly reminder.
Probably won't. A little busy.
Okay.
I'm busy that day. I might be sick that day.
Okay, there's nothing I can do. So let's we're gonna identify two of them. We try here. Caroline, you have the floor first. Who could get trapped this weekend? Let's see. Oh, by the way, she'll tell us the game. We'll get a picture. Let's see.
Alabama.
Oh, what are we doing?
Alabama is gonna get trapped this weekend. Yep, exactly. That's Caitlin DeBoer falling into the Tigers' den. Lane Kiffin's gonna love it. Josh Heupel's gonna love it. And secretly, deep down into his purple and gold bones, Nick Saban's gonna love it when LSU, fresh off of firing their coach, has got that brand new Brian Kelly's not here anymore energy swagger about them. Because LSU's coming off of a bye. LSU's now had 2 weeks with Frank Wilson, running backs coach, now interim head coach. He's kind of taken over and from all reports and rumblings that I have heard, re-energized and revitalized this program after the dead weight that was Brian Kelly is shed. They're going to step in and beat Bama. And I will tell you, if LSU goes 1-11 on the season but beats Bama, that's a success in LSU fans' eyes. So you see the helmet behind me. I've never hit it, never will. I'm an LSU fan. It's my favorite team in the whole entire world. Thank you very much. I think LSU is able to pull up the upset of the century with that new interim coach swagger that they will have stepping into Tuscaloosa.
New coach swagger is real. Like I don't get it twisted. New coach swagger is real. And I think, look, we can look at LSU two ways. We can look at LSU as 5-3, or we can look at LSU and say 5-3 was so bad given the talent that they have on that roster that it got their head coach fired. And think about that for a second. So if we're just talking about the talent, obviously there's something there. Can we pull the picture up again, the Thirst Trap Thursday picture? I have a pressing question here. All the coaches that are standing on the side as he's over, Mike the Tiger's about to eat him when he falls in. Do you really think that any of those coaches would dive in to help pull him out? Like, if he fell into the Tiger pit, I don't see Heupel moving quick to try and help him out. Like, that's one of those, you're going to make business decisions right there. You're saying you're out. You're saying you're out on it. Mike the Tiger, I'm in on. By the way, I'm not sure who Mike's friend is in the back, but you got two Tigers going. And you've got Heupel sort of disinterestedly looking, like Kiffin's face is sort of saying, yeah, you fell in the trap, man. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm with you, though. I actually like the call. It's hard to be a trap game when it's Alabama versus LSU. It's hard to be a trap game. But I think
this is an exception, though.
Go ahead.
I think that this is an exception because traditionally I say, and thank you for bringing that up, traditionally I say rivalry games are not trap games because you can't get trapped by a rival. LSU and Alabama absolutely are rivals. I mean, Alabama spews profanities about LSU at every single game. But the reason why I think this could be a trap game is because of the position that LSU finds themselves in now. They got the governor saying stuff. They didn't have a president, didn't have an athletic director, don't have a football coach. All of this just gray cloud has been hanging over this LSU program. That if there's going to be a time when Alabama overlooks an LSU team, it's this version of LSU.
They've had an AD, an interim AD, an AD, and an acting AD all in a week. Like, it's amazing how the governor just keeps talking. It's a delight. Okay, I'll give you my trap game. I'll be honest. I was thinking about taking, with new coach energy, I was thinking about taking Auburn at first, thinking Auburn, Vandy could be a trap. But then I thought about it, the loss for Vandy, there's no way Vandy can take the foot off the brakes. So then I went back to the board, and all of a sudden it hit me in the NFL. The Ravens take on the Vikings this week. Everybody's all in. But look at that. Harbaugh over there with the Vikings ship in the background, and JJ just screaming from the top of his lungs. God, I'm jealous of those abs. Harbaugh, how do you do it and still coach a football team? Look, here's my logic on this. And I watched, again, I'll continue to plant this flag. I disagree with Football 301. If you watch the show, they are great. They're spectacular. They did not like J.J. McCarthy at all in game one. I did. All right, I liked J.J. McCarthy a lot in game one. So what we have here is a quarterback that I think is going to be able to effectively use his legs, right? He's going to be effectively able to extend some plays. You still have Justin Jefferson, who's going to be able to do Justin Jefferson things. And if we're being honest, the other side of this, like the number of times we talked earlier in the season about how you don't want to take on the Vikings, they can sure put a quarterback in a blender. Well, we've forgotten all that, and I'm not willing to forget that. The Vikings became a bad football team because they had a terrible quarterback. The Vikings became a bad football team because they mismanaged the backup quarterback position this year so badly that it might actually cost them their season. But in this game, now what do we got? We don't have that. We don't have Carson Wentz back there just like laying down. We don't have that at all. We have J.J. McCarthy, and we have J.J. coming in, capable of using his legs, which I think is a big part of this. And also, J.J. was really comfortable just taking what was there. He was comfortable not pressing. He was comfortable letting the offense come to him. I think those are all good signs against the Ravens. I'm not sure that the Ravens, as much as we're all talking about the Ravens going to the playoffs, I think the Vikings could sneak up on them here. What do you think?
I love this by you. I love this. And frankly, I was shocked that the Ravens are 4.5-point favorites on the road at Minnesota. And look, I know Lamar Jackson is back. When Lamar is on this team, it's a far different football team than it is with any other backup. But Minnesota was able to go on the road to Detroit against a much better defense and find a way to win last week. This Ravens defense is trash. I don't care if they're healthy or not. This Ravens defense stinks. They're 27th in the league in yards allowed per game. If the Vikings can look like they looked against a much better defense last week, J.J. McCarthy, they're not asking him to do too much. Just play within the confines of this offense. Just put the ball in the hands of that man right there, and I promise you he can make a play happen. Run the football with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones being back, I think, just adds a complete different layer to this offense. I think that we haven't seen the best of the Vikings yet so far this season, and if they are going to string some games together against legitimate Super Bowl contenders, I think the Ravens are a great opportunity getting their defense in a position where they are right now. So I'm with you.
Well,
I love this by you. It's a battle of purple. We're big on purple today on today's show.
It's rare. No, I only wear black. There's no purple here, but I'll try it. I'll try it for a day. I feel like we nailed them. I want to give a little bit of love, by the way. We go from Baltimore to DC. Want to give a bit of love in a hockey story maybe everybody hasn't seen yet, but you should. Ovechkin gets his 900th NHL goal. Speaking of traps, I love this. Jordan Binnington, for your trivia fanatics, is the goalie that gave up the 900th goal. What did he try to do? He tried to trap the puck. I don't know if you saw this. He tried to keep the puck, tried to shove it in his pants, tried to make sure that nobody could find the 900th goal puck. But alas, Ovi gets the 900 goal mark. This is an incredible moment for hockey, Caroline. It's an incredible moment for Ovi. It's an incredible moment for Washington. Like all across the board, I look at this and think it's a reminder of just how great he's been for the league for so long.
It's always fun to see history be made against your team. So that was fun to watch the Blues come up short in a 6-1 loss as Ovechkin makes history. Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay. But to that point, we are watching history unfold in front of our very eyes. That Ovechkin will go down as the greatest of all time. At the very least, he is on the Mount Rushmore of players to ever strap up a pair of skates. So I know it's early in the hockey season, and I know that we are in one of the best times of the sports calendar when we have college football and NFL and NBA, college basketball. But let's not forget that we are watching history unfold in front of our very eyes as we watch Alexander Ovechkin. And I don't know how much longer it's going to go on. Ovi's been around for a hot minute. You see the gray hair and his beard and on his head right there. So I think we should just appreciate and enjoy every single little bit of history that we get to see be made by that man right there.
He's 40 years old and still scoring. I mean, he's 40 years old in such a physical game and able to still be the impactful player that he is. And we so often get consumed in sports with whatever's next, right? Like, so I feel like over the course of the last couple of years, our obsession with guys like, Connor McDavid, it creates this conversation about what's next. And while we've been worried about what's next, and certainly it's always hard to cut through history in hockey because of I think, let's say the ceiling that Gretzky has put on everybody, like that's the line and there's just never been another. sometimes we forget about guys like Ovi. And it's just surprising to me. As he hits 40, I think everybody's been rooting for this moment. We've all been waiting for this moment. But when you see it, it's just a reminder that sometimes in sports, we can get so obsessed with what's coming, and we can get so obsessed with the far past that we don't take the time to appreciate some of the greatness we have hanging on right now and still playing. When we see guys playing at that level in the NFL or in the NBA that are still making meaningful impact that are over 40, we stop and we talk about it often. I think sometimes we sell that short. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's hockey. Maybe it's because it's Washington. Maybe because it just hasn't been enough cups. Whatever it might be, it just feels like sometimes Ovi's overlooked. So I'm glad 900 goals gets to be his. And I'm sure this is going to be a moment, God knows how much longer he's going to play, but the decision to walk away sure as hell gets a lot easier when you know that you hit 900. Although part of me be like, I don't know, can I keep playing for another 5 years and get to 1,000?
Go for 1,000.
I mean, that's.
I mean, I don't even think it would take him 5 years. Give him 2. He'll get there.
Oh, God, I want that. I don't care if they're empty netters at this point. Just give me 1,000. All the way across the board. All right, we're going to keep breaking down everything going on in sports. Obviously, it's a massive week. It's been a massive time, and college basketball has tipped off. So we'll get you some of the breakdown coming up next. It is a massive weekend in college football. The College Football Playoff Committee has spoken, and that means desperate times are now going to call for desperate measures. We picked 3 matchups that are absolutely desperation moments for teams involved. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports Daily. Let's start with the first one. BYU, Texas Tech. You buying that this is a desperate poll?
Oh, it absolutely is. Big 12 mania, and I am so incredibly here for it. We need to be talking about BYU. BYU is undefeated, and we're not talking about it. BYU right now has the fast track to get to the Big 12 championship game and into the college football playoff. They were most recently ranked number 7 in the first edition of the college football playoff rankings, but Texas Tech is desperate for this one. If they lose this one, they fall to 5-2 in conference play. Then they'll be competing against the Houstons, the Utahs, the Cincinnatis of getting to the Big 12 title game. And I don't think that a 2-loss Big 12 team is going to get an at-large bid to the college football playoff. So getting that coveted automatic bid from the Big 12 championship game, I think is going to be absolutely, vital for any of these teams with 1 or 2 losses in the Big 12. But BYU wins this one, they have a fast track to get to the CFP. So they wouldn't even have to win the Big 12 championship game. If they're a 1-loss BYU team, I think they still get in whether they win the conference or not. So this one is massive as these two teams fight for their playoff lives.
Yeah, and this is where the College Football Playoff Committee tells us what they think. And part of what you have to look at isn't just where they rank the teams you're thinking about. Where do they rank the other teams in your conference? So BYU being ranked 7th, specifically being ranked below 3 teams from the SEC with 1 loss, speaks to the fact that they don't give BYU the credit that some people think that they should get right now. So an undefeated BYU team, while you'd say, well, they're undefeated, they don't have a ton of wiggle room because the committee's already told you they don't really value you. And if you're Texas Tech, man, you got to get this win because I think you're 1,000% right. You don't have a shot at being a 2-loss team out of the Big 12 right now if that 2-loss team particularly is Texas Tech. Hit me with we took our 2nd loss in the conference championship game, and maybe by the time college football is taking care of itself, that is a little different. But, man, a Texas Tech loss at this point that we give them their 2nd loss of the season, in my mind, there's no way that they're going to be ranked ahead of the Texases and the Oklahomas. So suddenly they're down in the 13-14 spot. That's not going to get you into the college football playoffs. So absolute desperation in this for a Big 12 that just my belief. I'm not on the committee. If I was on the committee, I would value the Big 12 more than the committee did. I feel like the committee told you they don't really give a damn about the Big 12. I don't know that I agree with that take across the board.
Exactly what they did.
100%. They do care about the SEC. So Texas A&M, Missouri. Can you find desperation in A&M and Missouri?
All the desperation, I think, is with Missouri. They're 6-2. They lose this game at home. Not only do they fall out of the top 25, they're completely eliminated from playoff contention. Because I think I originally thought in 12-team playoff, maybe 3-loss teams could get more of a nod. Of course, a 3-loss team could get in as a conference champion, but a 3-loss SEC team is not getting into the SEC championship game. So a 3rd loss essentially completely eliminates Missouri from playoff contention. And that was the expectation this year from Missouri, was to get into the playoffs. So total absolute desperation game. Missouri will need to win out on the rest of their schedule to get to the playoffs. So we're talking A&M, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Arkansas. If Missouri gets past Texas A&M, winning out, I do think, is very much so in play for Missouri, and playoffs are getting in play for Missouri. So have to get past Texas A&M here. There is desperation that exists for Texas A&M just to stay perfect on the schedule. They're undefeated. I think there's desperation for the fan base to say, okay, no, this team is different, because I think that a lot of A&M fans, and probably just fans across college football, are waiting with bated breath for Texas A&M to screw something up because they have a history of just screwing it up. But Texas A&M at least now has some wiggle room here. That Texas A&M doesn't have to be perfect on the remainder of their schedule in order to make the playoffs or even get to the SEC championship game. But they've got Texas looming large at the end of the season, so you want to at least give yourself some wiggle room to maybe drop that game but still find themselves in Atlanta and in the CFP.
Yeah, and this is where desperation is different for different teams. Texas A&M's season is not going to be adversely affected one way or the other depending on what happens in this game. That's a fair thing to say. But I do think you're right that the goblins, the demons, the things that come into your mind, the here we go agains, they get marching the minute Texas A&M takes a loss. And even if we want to say that Elko doesn't believe in that and that the locker room doesn't hear that, whatever, it will raise questions. And you can tell me that a locker room doesn't hear it. Every athlete tells me that they don't hear anything until later when they say that they heard it all, right? Like, it's just the way that we've done things. A&M does feel different this year. A&M feels like they're built different this year. And I think A&M has an argument to have gotten a lot more respect from the committee. So I'm genuinely interested, knowing that, hey, look, I would have put probably Ohio State number 1. I get that. We talked about that the other day. But if you look at the analytics that the committee is told to factor in, A&M should have been the number 1 team in the country. So A&M now has the chip on their shoulder of sending a message. They get the rare opportunity to be undefeated, to have everybody in the world doubt you, and then to be able to turn around and say the committee doesn't even respect you. Like, the motivation factors that Elko gets out of this, I think, are incredible. But Missouri's entire season is on the line. The everything that Missouri hoped for and has played for this season is on the line in this game. And whenever you get somebody up against the ropes like that, you truly find out who they are. 2 losses has become excusable in modern college football. It doesn't mean everything's over. 3 is that line. 3, you're done. And you're right. 3 isn't going to get you to the SEC championship game. It's not going to get you to the college football playoff. It's not going to get you to where you want to go. So this season goes from wildly incredible and Drinkwitz is the guy and all these different things to suddenly, man, how did Missouri blow this? All with this one game. This, of all the games this weekend, this one feels like it has heavy, heavy desperation to me just because of what it means for specifically for Missouri. All right, let's get to another one. How about this one? Tulane versus Memphis. Don't roll your eyes. Don't click off. Don't stop because we're talking about Tulane, Memphis. You college football nerds, stick with us. This game means something to everybody.
You're not better than the group of 5. Don't roll your eyes at that. This is a great game. This is a great game with a ton of desperation because we learn something every single week about the College Football Playoff Committee. And one thing that we learned from the first edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings is that they do not value the group of 5. They do not value a one-loss Memphis team because Memphis was left out of the top 25 entirely. Now, Memphis still would have gotten in if the playoff was today. Memphis would have gotten in because of the playoff structure, because the highest seeded group of 5 team will get into the playoff. But the playoff is telling you that they don't want Memphis in. So Memphis has to continue to prove and to continue to string wins together that they do belong in the CFP. Tulane, on the other hand, they have zero room for error. So I think this one, you have to keep your eyes on this one for the group of 5 bid. If Memphis drops this one and they drop to 2 losses, then the group of 5 is total and complete chaos. So we need to pay attention to games like this, especially when it's 2 group of 5 teams that both have playoff hopes and both are in the conversation to find themselves in the playoff.
And this again, Caroline, we're just taking what the committee gave us. I'm not sitting here, personally, me today, not trashing the group of 5. I think what the College Football Playoff Committee told us specifically is that they don't really value the group of 5 at all. Tennessee is 6-3 and they're number 25. So a 3-loss SEC team is already ahead of anything the group of 5 has to offer. Any loss by the group of 5 is going to be more reason that you get doubt. Frankly, not winning big. The group of 5 is not going to get the opportunity for an eye test win because they're only taking on other teams that the committee has told you they don't value. So at the end of the day, when you're trying to find a way to separate yourself and bring yourself back into the conversation, I want to remind everybody to the point you made earlier, if no group of 5 team is ranked in the top 25, what the committee will then do is take all of the group of 5 teams and they will rank them separate of everything else. There will guaranteed be a group of 5 team, even if the best of the group of 5 is a 4-loss Memphis team, that 4-loss Memphis team is taking a bid in the college football playoff. So make sure that you understand that because it's an important part to what's going to happen. Virginia right now looks like they could be a bid thief because of where they're ranked, and they are the highest. They are still they would be the ACC champion as it stands right now. So they would have an automatic bid, and then whoever from this group of 5 also comes in as part of this. So, Caroline, that's why these games are particularly important. Tulane, Memphis, it's because it's not even just that there's no wiggle room left. It's that even with everything you've done, the committee still doesn't care. So right or wrong, you got to find a way in a win to make them believe that you are better than a 3-loss SEC team.
Yeah. And they've proven, hey, show me more. Show me more. Tulane at 2 losses. One of those losses came at Ole Miss. Sometimes we'll see a committee, and every year is different. Every week is different. Sometimes we'll see a committee give credit to teams for scheduling these really difficult non-conference games. Tulane's not getting that benefit of the doubt, will they? If Tulane finds a way to win Memphis and find themselves in the AAC championship game, we'll see. But right now, that's not something that the committee values. You bring up bid thieves. I think that's very important to point out because in this structure of the college football playoff structure, conference champions get in, essentially. So if there is let's say a 3-loss conference champion, well, the team that they beat, let's say it's a 3-loss team versus a 1-loss team in the conference championship game. The 3-loss team is going to get in. The 1-loss team might also still get in. So that's 2 spots designated from, let's just say, the ACC, not a very competitive or deep conference. Then a conference that maybe would have originally been a 1-bid conference. Now it's a 2-bid conference. That pushes some of these other teams down the line here. So important to point out and keep that in mind that these conference championship games matter because conference champions will find themselves in the playoff.
Something that they're used to dealing with in the college basketball world. They spend every year looking to bid these. Speaking of college basketball, we're going to break it down next. Dusty May going to join us. We'll talk a little Michigan basketball coming up next on the show. I've never seen this before. That is the line out the parking lot past the big house to try and get into the opening game for Michigan basketball against Oakland. Absolutely epic because the hype is real, and we are joined now by the man who made all of that happen, head coach of the Michigan basketball program, Dusty May. Coach, really appreciate your time. Let's start right there. An incredible amount of fan support, especially non-conference opponent opening night. What's it mean to you to be getting that sort of a support from your program in just the second season running the show in Ann Arbor?
Well, we don't take it for granted. First of all, we're very appreciative of our fans, and we've came a long way in a year. And a lot goes into it, but most importantly, the way our guys play the game and the way they represent themselves, their families, and our universities, I think ultimately are why people have jumped on the bandwagon. But yeah, I just remember last year, the first game, I was a little bit shocked that we had so few fans. And I in my press conference, I made a proclamation that we'll give these people a month and they'll be here, and not really, not really challenging, just thinking that we're going to be better than people realize. And by the end of the year, we were selling out every game. So we thought this year we would have many more fans at our games than last year. But this was still a pleasant surprise to see fans lined up outside.
And that roster warrants a whole lot of buzz from the fan base. I don't have to tell you that roster construction looks very different in 2025 than it did several years ago. And you've been able to build this team with some veterans. You've built this team through the transfer portal, and also look at a very highly touted freshman in Trey McKinney. So how do you balance that? Some veterans, some transfers new to the program, freshmen coming in, getting their first college basketball experience. How do you balance that roster construction and the talent that you have?
Well, we have a staff that I think is very conscious of building a team and not just accumulating talent. And we felt the same way last year, where our pieces fit, expectations lined up for the most part. And we try to be as brutally honest in the recruiting process as we can be. And we're always trying to, I guess, express what our expectations are going to be and what the picture is going to look like. It can always change, and coaches say players decide who plays, but usually we have a good idea of why we're recruiting specific players, what their role is potentially going to be. And then do we look at them as more of an immediate impact guy or a developmental guy? So, I do think because of that, we have players who come in with more patience than they would other places. And then we have others that have high expectations because it's pretty clear that they're ready to go based on prior success.
I mean, you've gone through growth in your own career, going from FAU to where you are now, and you've also done it during a period of unprecedented change in college sports. So how do you manage just not only getting to Michigan, which is great for you and great for the program, but also now this NIL world of trying to figure out how to use NIL the best with your roster?
Well, if I was going to do a quick reflection, it's a great question. Probably the fact that I haven't been a head coach very long has helped me, where I don't really have an established way of doing everything. We're still working on our processes, and we change every day, every week, every year as far as if we can find a better way to do certain things. So that's probably advantageous that I haven't been doing something the same way for 25, 30 years or whatever the case. It probably makes you a little more flexible. But other than that, I mean, I think because of the timing and obviously timing is everything. We talk about the breaks that it takes to be successful, make it to this level. Our FAU team we entered this stage together, and as it was all changing. And so we kind of had an introductory course to our players being recruited by larger universities with more money. And so we had to figure out a way to counter it and balance it and whatnot. And so I think that was kind of a crash course. It was almost like a remedial math class that before we entered the full-fledged NIL transfer portal era.
And they say we never use math. All right, Coach, earlier in the show, we were talking about the ongoing investigation right now. Over 30 college basketball players being investigated for gambling. I'm curious, for someone that runs a program, what kind of guardrails do you guys put in place to make sure that kids aren't doing what they shouldn't be doing when it comes to the new world of gambling in sports?
But I think the gambling piece, we try to instill fear in our guys that there's no coming back from it. It's not as if you're suspended for a game. It's not as if you go to prison, you do time, and your basketball career is over forever. And so the gambling is tricky because once you go down that rabbit hole, it can go in a lot of different directions. So that's one, we don't motivate by fear. We don't coach through fear, but there's certain things in our program that we try to instill fear to prevent it from happening.
And these feel like such new conversations. NIL, transfer portal, and how we look at it now, gambling in the college sports world. Another new thing that we're talking about is revenue share. And you're a coach at Michigan that prides itself on having several, successful programs that compete for championships, that are rich in tradition. So how does Michigan, an athletic department that prides itself on being diverse, approach revenue share to make sure that everybody is accommodated for?
Well, I don't know if everyone in across, I think we have 30 sports around there, can be accounted for the way football needs to be accounted for. I think we're all aware that our football programs across the country drive a lot of this. And I'm a realist. We should take a back seat to football as far as the national landscape, because just look at the viewers of an NFL game versus the NBA. It's two different worlds right now. And so these issues are extremely complicated. I think we've kind of pushed them off for so long, and now we hit a tipping point. And so there are no easy solutions whenever you've just kind of put something on the back burner for so many years. And then it's hard to even argue a rule, because if it's illegal and it's not going to hold up in court, there's no reason for me wasting my time talking about it or venting about it, because we just got to find the way to do the best job for us and for Michigan. But it's not an easy time to be an administrator. It's not an easy time to be a conference commissioner. It's not an easy time to be a fan, because it's all changing so much. But at the end of the day, we get to coach basketball. We get to go to a gym every day. I get to wear pants that don't require a belt. And so, life's still pretty good for most of this. But it is complicated. I don't think there's any easy answers.
Pants don't wear a belt. I'm stealing that line. I'm stealing the line about pants without a belt.
Elastic is the key when you eat as much free food as we do. The buffet meal.
Watch this transition. Elasticity is about, comfort and being able to do a lot of things. You, like a team where you can get big men on the outside, you can sort of get everybody working everywhere, right? Like, how important is positionless basketball to the way that you look at the future of basketball?
It's extremely important, and that's our goal. Some years you can achieve it better than others based on your personnel and based on the concepts that you anticipate will work and you evolve to. But we played really, really small before I came to Michigan, and now we're playing really, really big. And I don't think there's one way to play this game. We talk about it a lot that everything works somewhere and nothing works everywhere. And so it's just figuring out, and we're at a place like Michigan where we can recruit bigger guys. And I think because of the success our centers have had since I was a head coach, that we found a little bit of a niche with it, with the skilled centers who are involved in the offense, and all 5 guys being incredibly involved in every possession and connected has helped us in recruiting to recruit the right kind of guys who are unselfish, who enjoy sharing it, who enjoy passing and playing team basketball. So it all kind of goes hand in hand, but without really good players playing it, it's not going to work.
So your son, Charlie, he scored the first bucket of his collegiate career on Monday night against Oakland. Look, you've done a lot in your career, and I'm sure will achieve a whole lot more throughout the rest of your career. But where does that rank on your list of proud accomplishments so far?
It was a lot of fun, and just he told he played at a really good high school program in South Florida, and they won a state championship. So that's probably the highlight of watching my sons win a state championship and do something special with a group of guys that committed to doing something greater. But yeah, that was just a fun moment. He said it's the most fun he's ever had playing basketball. So it's such an honor to play at the Division I level, to be on a team at his age and this level. So yeah, it was a really cool family moment. So yeah, we definitely cherish it.
Coach,
awesome.
We appreciate your time, especially this busy. It's early in the season. Everybody's panicked about everything. We appreciate you taking some time to get ready with us in the morning. Thanks so much for your time. Best of luck this season. Have a kick-ass year. We appreciate you.
If I could add one thing, our defensive coaches were pretty disappointed in Charlie's impulsive behavior on the other side of the ball. He heard our metrics, so he's. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
I love that. Ever the coach. Thank you so much, Coach. We appreciate it. Great stuff from Coach May there. And look, it's going to be a
Keep
fun
him
and
keep
wild.
him measured.
Yeah,
Bring him back down to earth.
Yeah,
Can't do
you
all
can't
the
mess up the
celebrating.
defensive analytics on this. The metrics matter. It is pretty stunning when you think about his ability to come in so quickly for a team that, as he referenced, wasn't selling a lot of tickets, didn't have a lot of hype at the beginning of last year, and now all of a sudden it just feels like something special is being built there. It's great to see a coach come from FAU to that opportunity and then thrive in that environment. Caroline, I think it speaks to some of the best of college basketball. We talk a lot about the worst of college sports sometimes. Like, this feels like a living, breathing example of some of the best of college sports.
This era of college basketball, men's and women's, is fascinating because the transfer portal has added a completely different element. I was covering ACC basketball media days, both men's and women's, where I live in Charlotte, and I was talking to men's and women's coaches, and it felt like every coach I talked to, I was saying, well, coach, it looks like you've got 6 new transfers. Looks like you've got 9 new transfers. Looks like your roster looks completely different this year than it did last year. So that adds, of course, another added challenge and hurdle for some of these coaches for team building, but it's also a wonderful tool that you can go from missing the tournament one year to being a championship contender to the next because of smart moves in the transfer portal. I think the other thing that's unique to men's basketball in the last couple of years versus maybe the last decade is players are sticking around longer. You have players that are staying for 4, 5, even 6 years if they have that COVID year, whereas previously we saw so many one and done. So it's just a different kind of vibe and a different style of roster construction now. And it's fun to see programs like Michigan, when college basketball is better, when programs like Michigan are good, to be able to build a true contender. And that's what Dusty May is doing in Ann Arbor.
I think that's part of the benefit that NIL plays to college basketball in general, because there are so many guys and girls that play college basketball that at the end of their college basketball career, their choices go to Europe and be away from their families, or stop playing, basically. So to have the opportunity for a lot of them to say, no, you don't have to go play somewhere else for money. You can stay here. Yeah, you're not going to make it to the NBA for a lot of them, but you can continue to play, and it can actually have meaningful impact to your family for a generation, because you have this opportunity with this program to do these special things. some of the good. Like, we talk a lot about the bad of transfer portal and NIL. I think college basketball is a good example of the good, Caroline.
Yeah, it is. And look, don't let some bad apples ruin what is genuinely a good thing for this sport. I think that when we have players stick around longer, we have better stories. We get to learn and fall in love with some of these players, that we get to see some consistency, that we get to see teams build from contenders year over year. So I'm so excited. I love college hoop season, Fitz. We're here.
Yeah, it's going to be a good year for Michigan. Should be a good night for us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Yahoo Sports Daily. Come back, hang out with us. Thanks so much for watching.